Welcome to the Basic Safeguarding Awareness presentation. My name is Rhiannon Thorne. In today's presentation, we will look at understanding the importance of safeguarding, enable you to identify different forms of abuse and recognise possible indicators. Finally, we will look at what you need to do if you have a concern regarding abuse. What does safeguarding mean? Safeguarding is protecting an individual's health, well-being and human rights, enabling them to live free from harm, abuse and neglect. Protecting the vulnerable is everybody's concern. Everyone has a responsibility to act. If they witness abuse, or they receive information about abuse, or they have concerns or suspicions about possible abuse or inappropriate care. If you do not act, you are condoning the abuse. An adult at risk is a person that is experiencing or is at risk of abuse or neglect, or they have need of care and support, or as a result of those needs is unable to protect him or herself against abuse, neglect or the risk of it. The main types of abuse include physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional, psychological abuse, neglect and financial and material abuse. Physical abuse. This would include hitting, slapping, pushing, pinching, force feeding somebody, burning, misuse of medication, that includes over-medicating or under-medicating, and misuse of restraint. The signs and symptoms you would look out for would be bruising and injuries that are not consistent with their explanation, abrasions, especially around the neck, wrist and ankles. If people are cowering or flinching, or if people are trying to hide injuries, if there is excessive drowsiness, or if people ask not to be hurt, and frequent changing of a care agency or GP. Sexual abuse. This would include rape, sexual assault, indecent exposure, penetration or attempted penetration of intimate areas, sexual harassment, enforced witnessing of sexual acts or pornography, and pressurised participation in sexual acts, so forced consent. The symptoms that you would need to look out for include torn, stained or bloody underclothing, bruises or bleeding in external genitalia, vaginal or anal areas, bruising on the inner thighs, changes in behaviour, perhaps bedwetting, aggressiveness or self-injury. The person might have feelings of guilt or shame. They might also refuse personal care where they accepted care before. Emotional or psychological abuse. This would include bullying, threats of harm or abandonment, ignoring the person, shouting or swearing at them, humiliating, blaming or controlling, intimidating them, or giving lack of privacy. Some of the signs that you would look out for would include confusion and anxiety, signs of depression, sleep disturbances. There might be changes in appetite. They could lose interest in pursuing social contacts. Sometimes there's an air of silence in the home when the alleged abuser is present. The person could lose confidence in everyday skills, or they could have denial. Neglect. This would include poor personal hygiene, lack of management of continence and pressure sores, failure to give medication or failure to give medication at the right time, at the right dosage, failure to obtain necessary devices such as dentures, glassing, hearing aids, etc., inadequate heating and lighting, lack of privacy or dignity for the person, leaving illnesses untreated, and dehydration and weight loss. Financial abuse. You can only undertake financial tasks for individuals if it's part of their care and support plan. Financial abuse would include theft or taking items and taking money, purchases that are unrelated to the needs of the vulnerable adult, being pressured around wills and pressured to give money or items, also taking items or money without consent. Some of the symptoms you could look out for would be perhaps an unexplained inability to pay bills, a sudden withdrawal from money from their account. There are signatures on cheques which do not resemble the signature of the adults at risk, or signed when the person can't write. When valuable possessions go missing without explanation, or person managing financial affairs is evasive or uncooperative or will not share information. The lasting power of attorney obtained when the adult at risk is unable to comprehend or give consent. The creation of a will when the person is incapable of making decisions. And lastly, where there is lax financial recording and monitoring in a care setting. As a care worker, you should never accept money in the return for undertaking any of your care tasks. Never borrow money from the individual or lend money to the individual. Do not use an individual's promotional vouchers or loyalty cards for self-gain. Neither do you use your own loyalty card when shopping for an individual. You do not place bets or purchase lottery tickets. And you do not ask an individual to be a guarantor for a hire purchase or any loans. You must not undertake private duties or tasks for the individual and then receive payment. Other abuse includes domestic abuse. Any instant where it is controlling, coercive or threatening behaviour, where there is violence or abuse between intimate partners or family members, and that's regardless of gender or sexuality. This can be observed as a sign and symptoms of the following types of abuse: psychological, physical, sexual, financial and emotional. A coercive behaviour is when acts of assaults or threats or humiliation, intimidation or other abuse is used to harm, to punish, to frighten a victim. Trafficking and modern-day slavery. These are fairly wide-ranging and often include the following types of conduct: sexual exploitation, labour exploitation, forced labour, criminal exploitation, domestic servitude, enabling others to acquire benefits, organ harvesting and child exploitation. This could be recruiting vulnerable adults and children, moving them to another country, using threats, force or deception to make them do something against their will, exploiting them to make money or to provide services for traffickers. If you suspect abuse. If you suspect abuse, you must act. And if someone discloses abuse to you, you must act. Do not discuss the abuse with the alleged abuser. Report the abuse as soon as you can. Do not delay. And be assured that you are doing the right thing. Confidentiality. There are examples where information may be shared without the consent of the individual. This includes safeguarding, where it is judged that an adult at risk is at risk of significant harm, or to prevent serious crime, a danger to a person's life, danger to others, including care workers, danger to the community, or danger to the health of the person. There are some essential steps that you should take. Firstly, believe that abuse can happen and never ignore a hunch. Share your concerns with your manager or with a designated safeguarding officer, and you do that at the earliest opportunity. Do not cover up for others. Report and record your suspicions as soon as possible, and do not tackle an alleged abuser yourself. There may be some reasons why you delay in reporting abuse. There may be some reasons why the individual themselves doesn't say that they're abused. This could be fear of the abuser, repercussions and the consequences. For the care worker, they might doubt that they're not willing to believe that abuse has happened, and there's uncertainty, they're not sure if it's abuse or not. For the individual, it might be loyalty to the family or loyalty to a colleague. It could be that there's no evidence and this is just a gut feeling. For the individual, they may love the abuser and they may blame themselves for the abuse happening. You may not want to interfere. You might feel that it's not your job to report. You might feel that you could deal with this situation on your own and you don't want others to become involved. It could be that you've promised secrecy, but all employees have a legal duty to report concerns of abuse. It might be that you feel that you want to preserve the relationship and its feelings of better the devil you know, and again, sometimes the individual loves the abuser. Also, the previous good character of the alleged abuser. They may have been a care worker for a long time and have been respected and trusted. When an adult tells you something, tells you that they've been abused, do listen carefully. Be sympathetic and make accurate notes using the adult's own words. Follow your organisation's procedures. Tell the child or adult that they've done the right thing in telling you, and consider possible forensic evidence. Don't ask leading questions. Don't start to investigate yourself. That is not your role. Your role is to raise the concern. Don't use your own words to describe the events, and don't promise confidentiality. Don't deal with this alone, and don't contact the alleged abuser. Stop someone who's freely disclosing. Anyone can make a referral. If anyone has knowledge, concerns or suspicions that an adult is suffering or has suffered or is at risk of harm, it is their responsibility to ensure that their concerns are referred to social services or the police. Talk to your line manager if you have any queries. Social services and the police have a statutory duty and power to make inquiries and intervene when necessary. If you have immediate concerns, you should contact IAA, Information, Advice and Assistance, without delay. They will record the concern over the phone. The multi-agency referral form can be submitted as soon as possible, but within 24 hours. These are the contact details. Thank you for listening to this presentation.